of social movements versus power holders in the institutional sense of the word. And I recall this very interesting moment, maybe 10 years ago, when Bernie Sanders was running for president. There was one interview, and it was it didn't make into headlines, but when he was saying, you know what, if I'm elected, I know how Congress and Senate work. I won't deliver any of the things that I'm saying. The only thing I will deliver is I will ask people to come to the streets with me on a regular basis, and we'll keep pushing. Because I know that as president, the power doesn't operate that way. I know what the Senate is. I know what the Congress is. I know they won't let me do it. And the only thing I will do is I will call for working class people, for the youth, for everyone, social movements, come to the streets with me, and we'll continue pushing. So I think that was really interesting intuition that he had there of like how much of it is possible. And related to that is also the example of like governments versus global capitalism, which is what happened in Greece just 10 years ago, when people pushed. There was a referendum saying we're not going to pay the debt, and they still had to do the austerity and everything because the power was not in Greece. So all of Southern Europe was passing through anti-austerity imposed by some other entities that were not properly elected for them. So it's also to understand how much of, even when people want, and the government is trying to represent in some way, let's be generous and say they were actually trying to represent, how much of mandate, how much of sovereignty they have to push in that direction. So I think that is an interesting example of like, where do we live today? What kind of world do we live today? And related to that, extreme right? Why does that work? Why does globalized capitalism fine with it? And I think the main aspect that we are missing today in analysis, like it's not visible, is that from Trump to Erdogan to Modi to whatever we want to look at, to Orban, they're not doing anything against financial capital. They are doing a lot of things about production, about migrant, like labor movement, about production, like concrete objects, but they're not doing anything about banks. They're not doing anything about financial capital, which is what globalizes everything. So